cut out of the will by mom and stepdad. Because I'm not family, but now that I've inherited $3 million, suddenly they want me back. So let's start from the beginning. When I was 14, my life took a sharp turn. My mom decided it was time to settle down again, this time with a man who already had a son from his previous marriage. He was 17, 3 years older than me, and let's just say we didn't exactly hit it off from the start. The ink wasn't even dry on their marriage certificate when tensions started to brew. At first, it was the small stuff. You know, the kind of petty arguments you'd expect when you throw strangers into a house and tell them they're family now. He'd leave his dirty dishes in the sink like they'd magically clean themselves, and I'd be the one getting an earful about the mess in the kitchen. Or I'd find my shampoo mysteriously vanishing faster than usual, only to see my new stepbrother sporting what looked suspiciously like my favorite hair product. It wasn't just the stepbrother antics that got to me, it was how my stepdad handled things. He had this way of just assuming I was the root of all problems. If something was out of place, somehow it was my doing. And mom? She wasn't much help either. She was so caught up in trying to make this new family work that she'd overlook the obvious, always smoothing things over, making excuses for why my stepbrother could do no wrong. A year into this new family setup, mom and stepdad had news they were expecting. That's when the dynamic really shifted. Suddenly, it was all about preparing for the new baby. The house needed redecorating, and guess whose room was conveniently chosen for the nursery? Yep, mine. So, I got shuffled to the smaller guest room, which barely had space for my stuff. It felt like a demotion, a clear message about where I stood in this family hierarchy. As my new half-brother grew up, it became apparent that he was the golden child. My stepbrother, already spoiled, seemed to take cues from this and upped his entitled behavior, knowing he could get away with anything. He dropped out of college and came back home bringing a whirlwind of trouble with him, from late-night parties to dodgy friends coming and going at all hours. Complaints? Met with a shrug from stepdad and sorrowful looks from mom, as if to say, what can we do? I started spending more time at friends' houses, anywhere I could feel a bit normal. School became my escape. I joined clubs, stayed late for extra classes, anything to avoid going home before I absolutely had to. This wasn't just teenage rebellion, it was survival. The atmosphere at home was suffocating, like constantly walking on eggshells, waiting for the next blow-up. One particular evening stands out in my memory. I had come home later than usual after a school project. The house was quiet, too quiet, which was unusual. I found a note on the fridge saying they'd gone out for dinner, a family dinner I wasn't told about. It was a simple message, but it hit me hard. It was as if they'd forgotten I existed unless I was there to be blamed for something. The breaking point came not long after my 18th birthday. I'd saved up some money from a part-time job, a job I got despite stepdad's complaints about how it would affect my studies, which was just another way of saying he didn't like not having me around to pin things on. I came home one day to find my room turned upside down. Stepbrother had thrown a party while the parents were out, and somehow my room became the casualty. Beer stains on my project papers, a broken lamp, and my privacy completely violated. I confronted them all at breakfast the next day. Stepdad's response? Cold and dismissive, saying I should have been more responsible with my belongings. Mom just sighed and mentioned something about family sticking together and letting things go. But I was done letting things go. During those teenage years, it seemed like everything I did was under a microscope, but not in the caring, let's help you grow kind of way. More like, let's catch you doing something wrong. My stepbrother, who had become pretty much a professional couch potato, was somehow always off the hook. My little half-brother was just a kid, sure, but the amount of coddling he got made it clear who the favorites were. I remember working on a big science project that I was really excited about. I needed quiet and space, both of which were in short supply at home. I tried to set up a little workspace in the corner of the living room, but it was like I had set up in the middle of Times Square. My stepbrother would blast his music, my little brother would be running around screaming, and there was my stepdad, always finding some reason to tell me to move my stuff. You're taking up too much space, he'd say, or your project is making a mess. It was frustrating. I felt like I was trying to build something delicate in the middle of a tornado. One day, I'd had enough. I packed up my project and marched over to a friend's house. Her parents were always welcoming, and they let me spread out my work in their quiet dining room. It was the first time in a long time that I felt like I could think straight. That's when it hit me how abnormal my home life had become. My friend noticed my relief at just being able to work in peace. You're always welcome here, she said one day, seeing the stress melt off me the minute I stepped into her house. It was a simple gesture, but it meant the world to me. It also made me realize that this wasn't how it was supposed to be. Home should be your safe place, not somewhere you escape from. I started picking up more shifts at my part-time job. If I wasn't at school or at a friend's place, I was working. Not just for the money, but because each hour away from home was a little easier to breathe. My stepdad didn't like it, always ranting about how a job was distracting me from schoolwork. But I knew the real reason he didn't like it. I wasn't around as much for him to find fault with. As I saved up, the plan to move out started forming more solidly in my mind. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. There was no way my mom and stepdad would take it well. But the more I thought about it, the more it felt like the only way I could get some control over my life. Then came the day I finally told them. I'd found a small apartment not too far from college, and it was affordable on my budget. I sat them down, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm moving out," I announced. The room went quiet. Too quiet. You could cut the tension with a knife. My stepdad was the first to react. "You think you're ready to live on your own, at your age?" he scoffed. My mom just sat there, looking between us, her face unreadable. "I am," I replied, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "I need my own space. I've saved up enough to manage." The argument that followed was brutal. Accusations were thrown about how ungrateful I was, how I was just trying to get away from my responsibilities at home. My stepdad even tried to guilt me about leaving my little brother behind. "He looks up to you, you know," he said, as if that was enough reason for me to stay in a situation that was making me miserable. But I stood my ground. This wasn't just about wanting my own space, it was about needing it for my mental and emotional health. I packed my things over the next few days, each item I put into a box feeling like a tiny piece of the fortress I was building around myself. The day I moved out, my mom came to my room. I was expecting another argument, but instead she helped me pack. We didn't talk much, but when we did, it was superficial. "Do you need more boxes?" Or, "I can give you some of the old kitchen stuff." It was like if we stayed on safe topics, we could avoid the massive elephant in the room. When I finally closed the door to my new apartment after moving everything in, I felt a wave of so many emotions. Relief, sadness, excitement, fear. I was on my own now, truly on my own. It was terrifying, but it was also freeing. Those first few nights were the hardest. The apartment felt too quiet, too empty. I missed even the annoying noises of my family home. Well, sort of. But as days turned into weeks, I started to appreciate the peace. I could come and go as I pleased. Eat when I wanted, sleep without being disturbed. It was like discovering a new part of myself that I had kept muted for so long. Life away from home settled into a routine pretty quickly, and honestly, it was the most peace I'd had in years. My relationship with my mom and stepdad wasn't great, but it was manageable since I wasn't under their roof 24/7. I was doing my own thing, staying busy with work and college and keeping my head down. Then, out of nowhere, my stepdad had a health scare that shook everything up. It wasn't life-threatening, but it was serious enough for him to start thinking about the future, specifically his will. I heard about it through my mom, who called one evening sounding a bit more somber than usual. "Your stepdad's been thinking about his will," she said, as casually as one might talk about the weather. "He wants to make sure everything is in order." "Okay," I replied, unsure where this was going. The tone in her voice hinted it wasn't just a courtesy call to keep me in the loop. She hesitated, then continued. "He's decided to include your stepbrother and your half-brother, but not you. He feels it makes more sense since they're his biological kids." There it was. The sting. Not that I was expecting anything, but hearing it laid out so bluntly was a gut punch. It wasn't the money or the potential inheritance that hurt. It was the clear message that I was an outsider in the family I'd spent over 5 years trying to fit into. "I see," I managed, keeping my voice neutral. "Thanks for letting me know." Mom must have sensed my hurt because she quickly added, "It's just legal stuff, you know. Doesn't change how we feel about you." "Right," I said, not really believing her. The conversation awkwardly drifted to other topics before ending, but the damage was done. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling that familiar ache of not belonging. The weeks that followed were tough. I mulled over the conversation again and again. Part of me wanted to confront my stepdad, demand an explanation, or at least tell him how much he'd hurt me. But another part of me wondered why I even cared. I hadn't felt like a part of their family for years. Why was this any different? I decided to pull back, limit my visits even more. It was a defense mechanism, I guess. Protecting myself from being hurt further by people who had already shown they didn't consider me family when it really counted. Then, the actual wake-up call came. It wasn't a dramatic event. No yelling matches or tearful showdowns. It was quieter than that, more profound. I was at a coffee shop, working on a term paper, when I overheard a group at the next table. They were laughing, sharing stories about their families, the usual ups and downs, normal stuff. And it hit me. I didn't have that. I hadn't had it for a long time, if ever. That realization sparked something in me. I started to question why I was allowing myself to be upset over being excluded from a will when I had already been excluded from the family in every way that mattered. It wasn't about the money. It was about wanting to feel valued and loved by the people who were supposed to be my family. From then on, I made a conscious decision to focus on the relationships in my life that did make me feel valued. Friends who had become like family, professors who mentored me, colleagues who respected me. I invested more in those connections, and gradually the hurt from my stepdad's will and the feeling of exclusion from my family began to fade. It wasn't an overnight change. There were still moments of bitterness, especially during family gatherings when I'd see my stepbrother and half-brother getting all the attention. But I was learning to accept that some things were out of my control, and where I could, I was building my own sense of family and belonging. The real test came when my stepdad's health scare passed, and life returned to normal for them. I was invited over for a family dinner, a celebration of sorts that he was doing better. I went, more out of a sense of obligation than anything else. The dinner was as awkward as I expected. My stepdad talked about his recovery. Everyone cooed over my half-brother's latest school achievements, and my stepbrother bragged about a new job. I sat there, mostly quiet, and it was clear I was the odd one out. But this time, it didn't hurt as much. I had reached a place of peace with my role in this family. I was the outsider, and that was okay because outside that house, I had people who cared about me for me, not for what I could bring to a will or a family name. After dinner, I left early, making some excuse about an early morning. As I drove home, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I was okay, really okay, for the first time in years. I had faced the reality of my situation, dealt with the emotional fallout, and come out the other side stronger and more self-assured. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that life has a funny way of throwing you surprises when you least expect it. After getting comfortable in my own routine and accepting the limited, if not strained, relationship with my family, I got a call one afternoon that turned everything on its head. The call was from a lawyer, someone I'd never heard of before, who introduced himself in a formal, almost apologetic tone. He asked if I had a few minutes to discuss the estate of my grand aunt, my dad's mother's sister. Honestly, I barely remembered her. She was one of those relatives you hear about in stories from your parents, but don't really know. She had no children of her own, and I remembered her being mentioned as someone who helped raise my dad. "I'm calling to inform you that your grand-aunt passed away recently," the lawyer continued, his voice a mixture of professional and sympathetic. "And she left her entire estate to you." To say I was shocked would be an understatement. I felt a mix of emotions: sadness for her passing, confusion about why she chose me, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility about what was coming next. The lawyer explained that my grand-aunt had been quite well off, having invested wisely over her lifetime. She left behind a sizable estate, including a trust fund that was now mine, totaling around $3 million. Just like that, my financial situation changed overnight. After the call, I sat there, phone in hand, trying to process the news. Why me? We weren't close. I visited her a few times, sure, but those visits were more about checking in on an elderly relative than bonding. She must have seen something in me, maybe a reflection of her own independence, or perhaps it was her way of reaching back to family one last time. The next few days were a whirlwind of meetings with the lawyer, signing documents, and learning exactly what I had inherited. It wasn't just money. There were properties, stocks, and a few personal items that had sentimental value. Among them was a letter she had written, explaining her decision. She admired my independence and determination, something she said reminded her of herself at my age. Equipped with this new wealth, I made some immediate changes. I bought a house, something I never thought I'd be able to afford on my own so soon. It was a modest place, but it was mine, and it represented a new chapter in my life. I also invested in a rental property, thinking ahead about long-term financial security. The rest of the money I put into savings and investments, consulting with a financial advisor to make sure I was making smart choices. But with great wealth comes great responsibility, and as I soon found out, great drama. I hadn't told anyone in my family about the inheritance, wanting to avoid any potential fallout. However, secrets have a way of coming out, and this one was no different. It started with my cousin, who somehow got wind of the inheritance through mutual connections in the legal world. Before I knew it, my mom knew, and once she knew, it wasn't long before everyone else did too. Phone calls started coming in. Not just from her, but from my stepdad, my stepbrother, and even relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone seemed to have a reason why they needed a piece of my inheritance. Times are tough, they'd say, or, you know how bad his health has been, referring to my stepdad. It was as if they all suddenly remembered I existed, but only as a bank. I was bombarded with requests for loans, gifts, and outright demands for money. It felt like I was watching vultures circling, each waiting for their chance to swoop in. The pressure was immense, and for a moment I faltered, wondering if I was being selfish by holding on to the inheritance. But then I remembered the years of feeling like an outsider in my own family. The years of scrimping and saving, working hard for every dime and getting myself through college without their help. This was my chance to secure my future, and I wasn't going to let guilt or manipulation sway me. When my mom asked directly why I hadn't thought to share the news with her, I had enough. I explained calmly but firmly that the distance between us wasn't just physical, but emotional. Her decisions, and by extension those of my stepdad and stepbrother, had shown me where I stood with them. The inheritance was a chance for me to do things on my terms, without relying on anyone else. It's my life, I told her, and I need to live it my way. I'm sorry if that hurts you, but I have to do what's best for me now. The fallout from that conversation was as expected. Accusations of being ungrateful and selfish were thrown my way, but I held my ground. Over time, the calls became less frequent, and the requests for money dried up as they realized I wasn't budging. It was a tough lesson in who my real family was. It wasn't defined by blood or marriage, but by the people who supported me without expecting anything in return. Those were the relationships I valued and continued to nurture. As for the inheritance, it remained a bittersweet reminder of my grand aunt, a woman I wish I had known better. Her final gift was not just the wealth she left me, but the clarity and conviction to stand up for myself, no matter the cost. The inheritance was supposed to be a blessing, a windfall from a distant relative who thought I might do something good with it. But as soon as word got out that I was suddenly a few million richer, it felt more like I'd painted a target on my back rather than received a gift. After I made it clear to my mom and the rest of the family that I wasn't going to hand out cash just because we shared some DNA, things got chilly. Fast. The phone calls and texts that were initially filled with thinly veiled hints for money turned into outright pleas, and then into angry demands when I held firm on my decision to keep my finances private. It wasn't just the immediate family either. Relatives I hadn't heard from in years were suddenly very interested in reconnecting. I received messages like, "Hey, just heard about Aunt so-and-so, so sorry to hear she passed, but also could you help me with some money? Times are tough." It was like they all had the same script, only the names were changed. One of the toughest calls was from my stepdad. He'd never been warm, but now he was cold and calculating. "You know, we've always considered you part of this family. It's only right you think of your brothers in this difficult time," he said one day, his voice dripping with a guilt-trip glaze. "My brothers haven't considered me family unless they needed something," I shot back, surprising even myself with the sharpness of my tone. "That's a harsh way to put it," he retorted, but I could tell he was taken aback. I had never spoken to him like that before. I had always been the compliant stepchild, the one who didn't rock the boat too much. The conversation spiraled from there, with him accusing me of being selfish and me reminding him of all the times I'd felt excluded and unimportant in his family. By the end, we were both too angry to see any reason, and the call ended with a mutual understanding that things between us would never be the same. The final straw came when my mom tried to mediate, which really meant taking my stepdad's side and trying to convince me to share my inheritance. "It's what families do," she insisted during one particularly tense visit where she'd shown up unannounced at my new house. "Families also support each other," I countered, feeling both exhausted and exasperated. "When have you ever supported me like this, emotionally or financially?" She was silent, unable to answer. The truth was, our relationship had been superficial at best for years. This money had just brought all the underlying issues to the surface. After she left, the calls and messages slowed, then stopped. It seemed they had finally accepted that I wasn't going to cave. It was a relief, but also a profound disappointment. It hurt to know that my value to them was tied so closely to what I could provide financially. In the wake of the family fallout, I began to invest more time in my relationships with friends and colleagues, people who appreciated me for who I was, not for my bank account. I also started volunteering, something I'd always wanted to do, but never had the resources or time for before. Giving back on my own terms was healing in a way I hadn't expected. It helped me connect with people, build new friendships, and fill the void left by my family's conditional affection. I also saw a therapist, who helped me work through the feelings of betrayal and abandonment that had resurfaced with this whole ordeal. It was tough, unpacking years of emotional baggage, but it was necessary. I learned to set boundaries, to recognize the signs of manipulative behavior, and most importantly, to value my own needs and well-being. One day, I decided to write a letter to each family member who had tried to pressure me for money. In each letter, I explained my feelings, why I had made the decisions I did, and how their actions had affected me. It was more for my closure than anything. I didn't expect any responses. To my surprise, my half-brother replied. He was young, only 14, and his letter was clumsy, but sincere. "I'm sorry for asking for money. I miss you," he wrote. It was a small step, but a meaningful one. We started texting, small conversations about school and his hobbies. It wasn't much, but it was something, a possible bridge to rebuilding at least one family connection. Update 1. Hey everyone, just wanted to update you all on what's been going on since I last posted. It's been a few weeks, and honestly, I wish I could say things have gotten better, but they've actually gone from bad to much worse. I appreciate all the support and advice you guys have given me. It's been a lifeline during this crazy time. So, after everything blew up with my family, my mom reached out to me in August wanting to talk. Given everything that's happened, I had a pretty strong hunch that this wasn't going to be a simple catch-up. To keep things somewhat neutral, we decided to meet at a public place. I figured that might keep the drama to a minimum, or at least keep things from getting too crazy. The meetup was awkward from the get-go. My mom kicked things off by talking about how they've been struggling financially. She mentioned my half-brother's private school fees have become a burden since my stepdad got sick and had his work hours cut. Then she shifted to talking about how they've been wanting to renovate the house and how she desperately needs a vacation to get away from the mental toll of everything. Throughout all this, she didn't ask a single question about my life or how I've been coping. It was like I was just there to listen to her list of problems. I was getting more and more uncomfortable as the conversation dragged on, feeling like I was just a spectator to her woes. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore and asked her to just get to the point. Without missing a beat, she said she expected me to write her a check for $1 million. Yes, you read that right, $1 million. She claimed that, technically, it should all be her money since it came from her late husband's inheritance. But she was being generous by only asking for a third. Her demands were growing more and more outlandish, and I could hardly believe what I was hearing. I quickly paid the bill and got out of there as fast as I could. Since that day, my mom has been going around calling me a thief, loudly proclaiming to anyone who will listen that the inheritance should have been hers in the first place. Meanwhile, my stepdad sent me a massive wall of text, lecturing me about how I can't just think of myself when I'm part of a bigger family, and that my decisions should be inclusive of everyone else. I reminded him pointedly how he didn't include me in his will because I wasn't family enough. That seemed to shut him up temporarily, but I doubt it's the end of it. Things have spiraled into absolute madness since then. Both my mom and stepdad have been bad-mouthing me all over the place, and I'm honestly a bit scared about what they might do next. It feels like they're trying to turn everyone against me, painting me as the bad guy in a situation they've blown way out of proportion. I'm trying to stay strong and keep a level head. But it's tough when it feels like the people who are supposed to support you are out to make your life harder. I'll keep you all updated if anything changes, but right now, it's just one big mess. Thanks again for all your support and advice. It really helps to know there are people out there who understand and care. Update 2. Hey everyone, dropping in again for a big update. Trust me, it's been a whirlwind these past few weeks, and honestly, I'm just trying to keep my head above water with all the crazy stuff that's been happening. I really appreciate all the support and advice you all have been throwing my way. It's been a huge help in navigating this chaos, so thank you a ton. So, here's the scoop. A few weeks back, out of nowhere, I get this super official-looking letter in the mail. It's from some lawyer I've never heard of, claiming that my mom is suing me for a huge chunk of my inheritance. Yeah, you heard that right. My own mom, suing me. My initial reaction? Full-blown panic. I mean, who wouldn't freak out? My mind was racing, thinking about all the legal battles I'd have to face. But then, just when I thought it couldn't get any more soap opera-worthy, my stepdad sends me this ominous text. He's all like, "You'll regret not sharing your money because now we're going to take you for everything you're worth." It was like something out of a bad movie, the villainous step-parent twisting the knife. Seriously, the audacity had my jaw on the floor. Rattled but not beaten, I sent everything over to my attorney, expecting a whole ordeal. But get this, my attorney literally laughed when he read the letter. Not just a chuckle, but a full-on, "Are you kidding me?" kind of laugh. He tossed the letter into the trash and told me not to lose any sleep over it. According to him, my grandaunt's will is locked down tighter than Fort Knox. There's no way my mom can touch anything legally because she isn't even a descendant, and the will spells out the beneficiaries clear as day. But because my attorney is the thorough kind of guy he is, he didn't stop there. He dug a bit deeper into this so-called lawyer who sent the letter. Turns out, the office address listed is some rundown building that looks like it hasn't seen a tenant in years, and the phone number? Disconnected. No longer in service. Looks like my parents got desperate and decided to hire some fly-by-night, probably not even legit lawyer in a last-ditch effort to scare me into coughing up some cash. Realizing they were just trying to bluff me into surrendering part of my inheritance was both a relief and a wake-up call. They actually thought they could strong-arm me with some half-baked legal threat. The nerve, right? Knowing this, I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. I mean, I was gearing up for a legal showdown. But now? I'm just shaking my head at the lengths they'd go to. So with that drama sort of deflated, I decided I needed a break from all the madness. I've been on edge, losing sleep, and just generally stressed out. I talked it over with my buddies, and we all agreed. It's time for a little getaway. So I'm taking some time off work to go traveling with my friends next week. Nothing fancy, just a road trip to some places we've always talked about visiting but never got around to. I think a change of scenery is exactly what I need to clear my head and recharge. It's weird, though, thinking about how things have unfolded. I used to look up to my mom and stepdad, you know? And now, seeing how they've acted, it's disappointing. But I'm learning that sometimes you have to step back from the people who are supposed to support you when they start pulling you down instead. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to this trip. A bit of adventure, some good laughs, and quality time with friends. Just what the doctor ordered to get away from the family drama. I'll keep you all posted on how it goes, and if anything else pops up on the home front. But for now, I'm focusing on the positive, on moving forward and not letting this whole mess drag me down anymore. Thanks again for all the support and advice. This community has been my rock through this storm, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate every comment, every message of encouragement. You guys are the best. Here's to better days ahead, right? Catch you all after my trip, hopefully with some fun stories and zero drama. I am a 27 female and I have a younger brother, a sister, and a mom passed away in an accident 8 years ago. A father of 52, a male that I used to be very close before this, but we have drifted apart since then. The aftermath of such a profound loss reshaped my life and my relationships in ways I could never have anticipated, particularly with my father, with whom I was incredibly close before the tragedy. Growing up, I looked a lot like my sister, who was adored by our dad. They shared a special bond, often joking that she would take care of him when he got older. This dynamic changed dramatically after their deaths. I think seeing me might remind my dad of her, which might be why we've drifted apart. He has always been skeptical about therapy, believing it to be a sign of weakness. When I sought therapy a few months after the accident to handle my grief, he was dismissive, telling me to be stronger and not to give people the satisfaction of seeing me weak. A couple of years after the accident, my dad remarried, and this is where the dynamics in our family started to shift even more. His new wife had 2 children from a previous relationship, and from the start, it was clear that we wouldn't get along. Early on, she influenced my dad to make decisions that excluded me, such as not inviting me to their wedding. She also accused me of bullying her children because I set boundaries at my beach house, refusing to let them throw an unsupervised party and insisting they treat my staff with respect. Her children were teenagers at the time, and her daughter seemed to have assumed that the financial stability my dad appeared to have was a result of his own doing. In reality, a significant portion of the money was from my mom's will, which was left to me. I used this inheritance wisely, investing it and building a successful career in the tech field, which further solidified my financial independence. This seemed to be a point of contention, or perhaps jealousy from my dad's new wife. The situation escalated recently during a gender reveal party for the twins my dad and his wife are expecting. At the party, my dad announced that they planned to name the twins after my deceased siblings. This felt incredibly inappropriate and insensitive to me, considering the complex feelings associated with such a decision. I couldn't hold back and voiced my concern, suggesting that using my siblings' names was weird and perhaps not the best choice. His wife quickly dismissed me, accusing me of jealousy. The confrontation that ensued was heated. I expressed my frustrations about how my dad had changed, how he allowed his new wife to treat me poorly, and how he seemed to prioritize her and her children over me. I recounted how he hadn't even shown appreciation when I bought him a house to secure his living situation, and I mentioned how disappointed our siblings would be if they could see the state of our family now. My father told me to get out of his house, and as I'm about to leave, his wife comes up to me, and I kid you not says, "Don't let the door hit your butt all the way out." So I walk back and tell my dad that he and his wife had a month to leave my house. In the heat of the moment, I reminded them that the house they were living in was actually mine, and I told them they needed to find another place to live within a month. His wife broke down, and my dad accused me of being vindictive and ungrateful, further straining our already fragile relationship. Since then, I've received numerous messages from her family members demanding an apology from me, citing my behavior as unacceptable, especially given her pregnancy. My friends and some family members support my decision, believing that I was justified in standing up for myself. However, they also suggest perhaps allowing my dad to stay if he chooses to leave his wife, though I'm not inclined to offer such leniency. Reflecting on all this, I'm torn between the desire to uphold my boundaries and the guilt over the stress caused to a pregnant woman. Yet I keep coming back to the necessity of protecting my own mental and emotional health after years of feeling sidelined and unvalued. It's a complex situation, one that requires careful consideration and perhaps, in time, a path to reconciliation or at least a resolution that doesn't compromise my well-being for the sake of appeasing others. So, am I the a-hole? Now, for the top comments before the updates, not the a-hole. Kick them out. They shouldn't name their twins after your dad's siblings. It's totally wrong because your dad's siblings were born to your dad and mom and stepmom. They need to come up with other names. Your stepmom is a piece of work. I'm sorry for your loss of your mom and siblings. The way new wife has worked to cut Opie out of her father's life. It's not impossible. She's seeking to override Opie's siblings in her husband's mind. She was probably thinking dad has lots of money and valuable property she can get if she pushes Opie out. Ding, ding, ding. This happened to me and my brother when my dad went off to deep end during his midlife crisis. Like, Opie joke was on her because she never would have gotten the house my dad lived in, as it was basically willed to me by my brother. So there was no way for trashy girlfriend to get her grubby hands on it, no matter how deep of a word she made. She didn't even have a lot of money either, just more than she did since she refused to get a job. Whereas he had a state pension, military benefits, Medicare part-time job. I'm lucky, though, that my dad eventually wised up when she tried to pass her fourth pregnancy office. It wasn't possible because he had a vasectomy 20 years prior and dumped her. She was a walking dumpster fire at home. A relationship was a Jerry Springer Show episode. Stick to your guns. Your dad has become mental and your stepmom is the reason. Get them out of your house and go low contact or no contact until your dad gets therapy and comes to his senses. I know you said he doesn't believe in therapy, but make it conditional if he wants a relationship with you. He's wholly dependent on Opie for home and finances at least. So he has a stake. Something to lose. It's abundantly obvious where his loyalty lies, and it's not with his daughter. Update 1. Hey everyone, thanks so much for the support and condolences you've offered recently. It really means a lot during this tumultuous time. Many of you have been asking for details or expressed concern about the situation with my dad, so I wanted to take the time to really explain everything that's been going on, no details spared. To set the stage, my dad and I were very close before a tragic accident 8 years ago claimed the lives of my mom, younger brother, and sister. Since then, our relationship has drastically changed. Part of this shift might be because I resemble my younger sister, who was particularly close to him. It's a constant reminder of what was lost, and it seems to have put a strain on our interactions. A few years after the loss, I bought a house for my dad, thinking it might help mend our relationship. This house, which is under my name, was meant as a grand gesture of appreciation for all he had done for me, despite our growing distance. It was supposed to be a surprise to show how much I cared and hoped we could repair the bond we once shared. However, things haven't gone as planned. Over the years, I ended up footing the bill for almost all his expenses, covering everything from house maintenance to his day-to-day needs, without much acknowledgement or appreciation. It's been draining, both financially and emotionally. The tipping point came recently during a gender reveal party for his new twins with his second wife. At the party, he announced plans to name the twins after my deceased siblings. This might seem like a touching tribute at first glance, but the context made it feel like a misstep. To me, it felt less like honoring their memory and more like an attempt to cope with his grief by trying to replace them. The decision struck a nerve, especially since it seemed to symbolize an attempt to erase the painful past rather than confront and heal from it. I expressed my concerns during the party, which unfortunately escalated into a confrontation. His wife accused me of being jealous, which only added fuel to the fire. I ended up sharing a lot of pent-up feelings about how he had shifted his priorities, how he seemed to have changed since marrying his new wife, and how I felt sidelined in my own family. Following the party, I made the difficult decision to ask my dad and his wife to move out of the house I owned. I gave them a 30-day notice, legally proceeding with the eviction through my lawyer. This decision wasn't made lightly. It came after years of feeling underappreciated and somewhat used for the financial stability I offered. Some of you have suggested cutting off contact entirely, and while I'm considering it, I've decided to give my dad one more chance to bridge the gap between us. We've agreed to meet this weekend, just the two of us without his wife, to have a frank discussion about everything. I plan to suggest therapy as a condition for any further support because I genuinely believe he needs to address his grief and the way it's affected his relationships, not just with me, but with everyone around him. This meeting might very well determine the future of our relationship. If he's open to getting help and genuinely working on mending things, there might be a path forward. If not, I may have to accept that our paths will diverge, and I'll need to move forward with my life without him in it. I promise to keep you updated on how the meeting goes and what comes next. This situation isn't easy, and your support has been invaluable. Whether this weekend brings closure or a new beginning, I'll share the outcome with you all. Thanks again for being there when it feels like the ground is shifting under my feet. Update 2. Hey everyone, I really appreciate all the support and advice you've been giving. It's been super helpful. So, I finally had that talk with my dad I've been telling you about, and boy did things take a wild turn. We decided to meet at a coffee shop because it seemed like a nice, calm place to chat. At first, things were pretty stiff, like you could cut the tension with a knife. I told him everything that was on my mind. How weird it felt for him to want to name his new twins after my siblings who passed away. How tough it's been paying for his stuff, without him realizing how much it's straining me, and how distant we've become. I even brought up the idea of going to therapy together, hoping it might help fix some of our issues. Just as we were getting deep into our conversation, my dad's phone started going off like crazy. He tried to ignore it, but it kept buzzing, and he looked really worried. Finally, he took the call, and when he came back to the table, he looked like he'd seen a ghost or something. He told me his wife was rushed to the hospital because she was having the twins way earlier than expected. But that wasn't all. Here comes the major shocker. He wasn't sure if he was actually the father. Apparently his wife might have been seeing her ex, and the timing of the whole pregnancy was kind of suspicious. My dad was totally crushed. He felt so betrayed and confused because he really thought these twins would be a way to start fresh after all the sadness we've had. We didn't waste a minute and headed straight to the hospital. The whole ride there, my dad couldn't stop talking about how he missed so many signs because he just wanted to feel like he had a family again. When we got there, things got even more dramatic. Her ex showed up, and suddenly it was like a scene from a movie, shouting, arguing, and hospital security had to step in. My dad decided he needed a paternity test to see if he's really the father of the twins. While all this chaos was happening, he kept apologizing to me for letting our relationship fade and for not seeing how much pressure I was under. He promised he would start therapy, no matter what happens with the test, because he realized he's got a lot of stuff to sort out from everything that's happened since we lost my mom and siblings. It was a lot to take in. I'm feeling a mix of anger and sadness, but also a bit of hope that maybe things can get better. We agreed to slow things down and take it one step at a time. For now, he's staying in a hotel to give us both some space to think. We're planning to go to his first therapy session together next week. This wasn't the sort of resolution I was expecting, but it's a start, right? I'll keep you guys updated on what happens with the paternity test and how things go with the therapy. Thanks again for all the support. It means a lot during this crazy time. Update 3. Hey again, everyone. Thanks so much for all the support you've been giving me. It really helps to talk it out with you all. All right, let's dive in. Remember the whole mess about whether my dad was the father of the twins? Well, we finally got those paternity test results back. Drumroll? Yes, he is definitely the father. That should be good news, right? Well, it's complicated, like everything else in our lives right now. So here's the deal. Even though my dad is the biological dad of the twins, which is a huge relief, there's still a massive cloud hanging over us because of the affair his wife had. Yep, she did have an affair with her ex, which she admitted to after all the drama unfolded. She says it was a huge mistake, happening at a time when she felt really lonely and ignored by my dad. She's super apologetic and is trying to make things right, but it's not that simple. My dad, well, he's got a whirlwind of emotions going on. He's thrilled that he's the twins' dad, but he's also heartbroken and angry about the betrayal. It's like he's stuck at a crossroads, trying to figure out if he can ever trust her again and what that means for their marriage. For now, he's still staying in that hotel, giving himself some space to think things through. They've started going to couples therapy to see if they can sort through the mess of feelings and maybe salvage their relationship. It's going to be a long and tough journey for them, for sure. And me? I've been doing a lot of thinking myself. Supporting my dad through this has been really tough. I mean, he's my dad, and I love him, so I want to be there for him even when it's hard. We've been going to therapy together too, which has been surprisingly cool. We're talking about stuff we've never really talked about before, and it's helping us understand each other a lot better. It's weird, but talking about our feelings, really getting down to the nitty-gritty, is helping us reconnect in ways I didn't think were possible after all that's happened. It's like we're rebuilding our bridge, plank by plank. About the twins. They're really cute and healthy, which is awesome. I've been to see them a few times now, and it's kind of amazing to see parts of my family in them. It makes me think a lot about what family means and how sometimes forgiveness isn't just about saying, it's okay, but about understanding why things happened the way they did. So, what's next for us? I'm not totally sure. My dad has a lot to figure out with his wife. They have to decide if they can move past the affair and how they'll raise the twins together if they do stay together. As for me, I'm just taking things one day at a time, trying to be supportive and keep my own life on track. This whole situation has been a huge reminder of how messy and complicated family can be, but also how important it is to stick together and try to understand each other, even when it's super tough. Thanks for sticking with me through this family roller coaster. I'll keep you posted on how things go with my dad, the therapy, and everything else. Your messages and comments really mean the world to me, especially when things get overwhelming. So keep them coming. Until next time, take care and send good vibes our way. Update 4. My dad has made a huge decision. He's getting a divorce. Yeah, after all the ups and downs, the therapy sessions, and the roller coaster of emotions, he's decided that it's best for everyone if he and his wife go their separate ways. It's been a really tough call for him, but he feels it's the right move. Here's the lowdown. Dad and his wife have been trying really hard to patch things up, especially after the affair and everything that came with it. They went to couples therapy, talked a lot, and tried to work through their problems. But no matter how much they tried, my dad just couldn't shake off the hurt from the betrayal. He told me that he would wake up some days feeling okay, but then the reality would hit him all over again, and he'd be back to feeling sad and angry. One evening, he sat me down and explained his decision. He said he felt like he was stuck in a loop of unhappiness, and it wasn't fair to anyone, including his wife, to keep things going when his heart wasn't in it anymore. He was really calm, but I could tell it was super hard for him. When he told his wife, it was a pretty emotional scene. She was really upset and tried to persuade him to reconsider, saying they could try harder, go to more therapy, anything. But Dad was firm. He had thought it through and felt this was the best path forward for his peace of mind and for a healthier environment for everyone, especially the twins. Speaking of the twins, my dad is super clear about one thing. He adores them and wants the best for them no matter what. He's talking to lawyers to sort out joint custody because he wants to be an involved dad. He doesn't want the twins to ever feel like the divorce is their fault or that he loves them any less. It's really important to him that they grow up knowing both their parents love them loads. For now, Dad's still staying in the hotel, but he started looking for a new place. He's thinking about a fresh start in a new home where he can set up a nice space for the twins and create a peaceful life for himself. He's been looking at some cool places and even asked for my opinion on a couple, which felt nice. Our therapy sessions have been a godsend through all of this. They've helped us understand each other better and stay connected. It's like we're rebuilding our relationship from the ground up, which feels really good after everything that's happened. I've seen a change in him since he made this decision. There's a kind of relief, like he's finally breathing easier after holding his breath for a long time. He seems more focused and determined to build a better future, not just for himself, but for his kids too. So, that's where we are now. It's not the easiest path, but it feels like the right one. We've got a lot of adjusting to do, and there are still many details to figure out, especially with the divorce and custody arrangements. But I'm hopeful. It feels like we're moving towards something better, even if it's through tough changes. Thank you all so much for your messages, advice, and just for being there. This community has been incredible, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate every word of encouragement. I'll keep you updated as we navigate this new chapter. Here's to hoping for more positive updates soon. Stay tuned and keep those good vibes coming our way. Update 5. Hey everyone, I'm here with another update from our ongoing family saga. You all have been incredible with your support and advice, and I honestly don't know what I'd do without this community. So buckle up because a lot has happened since my last update. First off, the divorce proceedings between my dad and his wife are in full swing. Divorces can get pretty complicated, and this one is no exception. There's a bunch of legal stuff that needs to be sorted out, like who gets what and how they're going to split time with the twins. My dad is really focused on making sure everything is done fairly, especially for the twins' sake. He's working closely with his lawyer to sort through the legal jargon and make sure he stays a big part of his kids' lives. On a brighter note, my dad found a new place to live. It's a really nice house with plenty of room for the twins to play and have their own space when they come to stay with him. He's been putting a lot of energy into making it feel like a real home for them. Decorating and setting up a new house is a lot of work, but he's kind of using it as a way to heal and move forward. It's pretty cool to see him turning a tough situation into something positive. The twins are adjusting pretty well, all things considered. Dad and his soon-to-be ex are trying to work out the kinks in their co-parenting arrangement. They've set up a schedule that seems to work for everyone, giving Dad plenty of time with the twins. Sure, it's a little awkward and bumpy at times. After all, adjusting to new ways of doing family stuff is never easy. But they're both really trying to make it work because they want what's best for the twins. We're still hitting our therapy sessions together, and they're honestly a lifesaver. We've been learning a lot about how to talk to each other better and understand where we're both coming from. It's opened up a whole new level of conversation between us, which has been amazing for our relationship. Plus, Dad started seeing a therapist on his own to help him deal with the divorce and all the emotions that come with it. It seems to be really helping him cope with all the changes. Looking back at everything that's happened, it's been quite the roller coaster. But through all the ups and downs, there's a weird sense of hope and renewal. Dad is finding his way through the mess, focusing on creating a stable and happy life for himself and the twins. It's not easy, but he's really putting in the effort. It's inspiring to watch him handle everything with so much strength and determination. He's more engaged when we hang out, and I can tell he's genuinely trying to make the best out of a tough situation. It makes me think about how we all face challenges, but it's what we do in response that really shapes us. So, that's the latest from our side. Things are starting to settle into a new sort of normal, and we're all learning and growing a lot from the experience. Your support has been a cornerstone for us, and I'm so grateful for every message and piece of advice you've shared. I'll definitely keep you all posted as more developments come up. Here's to hoping the next update is even more positive, and thanks again for being part of our journey. Stay tuned and keep those good vibes coming our way. Update 6. Hey everyone, it's time for another big update from our family's wild ride. So much has happened, and I'm here to spill all the details. Your support and advice have been like a lighthouse in the storm for us, so thank you a million times over. Alright, so the first big news. My dad's divorce is finally officially complete. It's been a long and tough road with lots of papers to sign and decisions to make, but they managed to sort everything out fairly, especially when it comes to taking care of the twins. Dad's really relieved that all the legal stuff is behind him now, and there were no last-minute surprises to mess things up. Dad has finished setting up his new house, and let me tell you, it's turned out to be such a cozy and welcoming place. He went all out making sure the twins have awesome rooms. Each room is decorated just the way they like, with their favorite colors and themes. There's a play area where they can spread out their toys and games, and Dad's even started a little garden in the backyard for them to help with. It's been a huge project, but now that it's done, it feels like a real home for them. Things on the co-parenting front are looking up too. Dad and his ex-wife have finally found a good routine that works well for them and is great for the twins. The kids spend weekends and a couple of weekdays with Dad, and they're really loving the time they get to spend with him. Dad's been planning all sorts of fun activities, trips to the zoo, picnics in the park, and even a mini road trip last month. He's making sure that their time together is packed with fun and that they're making lots of happy memories. We're still doing our therapy sessions together, and honestly, these sessions have been a game changer. They help us talk things out, understand each other better, and deal with all the changes we've been going through. It's really strengthened our bond. Plus, Dad's personal therapy sessions are helping him a lot too. He's working through his feelings about the divorce and learning how to move forward in a healthy way. And guess what? Dad started dating again. It's really early days, but he met someone through a friend, and they seem to hit it off. They've been on a few dates, just getting to know each other. Dad's taking it super slow, just enjoying getting to know someone new and having some fun. It's great to see him happy and laughing again, and it feels like he's turning a new page in his life. Looking back at everything that's happened over the last few months, it's kind of amazing to see how much things have changed and how we've all grown from the experience. It wasn't easy to get through all the tough times, but now that we're here, I can see how much stronger it's made us as a family. Dad's journey from the tough times of his divorce to finding a new rhythm in life has been really inspiring. He's shown me that no matter how hard things get, there's always a way to make things better if you're willing to work for it and stay open to change. As always, thank you all so much for your support. Your kind words, advice, and just knowing you're there to listen has been incredibly helpful. I'll definitely keep you posted as more things unfold. Here's to hoping the next update brings even more good news. Stay tuned and keep sending those good vibes our way. Last update. Hey everyone, it's time for what might be the last major update for a while on everything that's been happening in our family's world. Your support, advice, and just being there to listen has meant the world to us, so I'm excited to share where we are now. First things first, the divorce is completely in the rearview mirror now, and Dad has really found his groove again. The whole co-parenting setup with his ex-wife is going much smoother than any of us expected. The twins are having a blast and really enjoy the time they spend at both houses, which is a huge relief. Dad's been all about making their days fun and educational. Whether it's a weekend science project or a day out at the local museum, he's really throwing himself into the dad role like a champ. Dad's house has truly turned into a home. He's put the final touches on decorating, and it's filled with all sorts of cozy corners and fun spaces for the twins. They have their own rooms, decked out exactly how they like. The backyard garden is thriving too. They've got tomatoes, cucumbers, and even a few pumpkins growing. It's their little green oasis, and you should see how proud they are when they show off their gardening skills. We're still hitting our therapy sessions together regularly, and I can't stress enough how much they've helped us. It's our time to talk things out, catch up on feelings, and make sure we're on the same page. Plus, Dad's personal therapy sessions are really helping him stay positive and balanced. It's like he's learning new ways to handle stress and change, and I can see how much happier he is because of it. Okay, on to some really sweet news. Dad's new relationship is going beautifully. He's been dating his girlfriend for several months now, and things are getting pretty serious. She's super nice, really fun, and gets along great with the twins. She's even come along on a few family outings, and it's been awesome to see how well she fits in with us. Watching Dad so happy and relaxed with someone new has been a joy for all of us. It's like he's got a whole new lease on life. Looking back over the past months, it's wild to think about all we've been through. From the shock of the divorce to settling into new routines, it's been a roller coaster. But somehow, we've come out the other side stronger and closer than ever. Dad's resilience and commitment to making the best out of a tough situation have really inspired me. It shows how much you can achieve when you stay positive and lean on the people who care about you. I really can't say thank you enough to all of you here. Sharing our ups and downs, getting your advice, and just knowing you're rooting for us has made such a difference. While this update wraps up the big storm of changes, I'll still pop in to share how we're doing from time to time. As we look forward, we're all feeling hopeful and excited about what the future holds. Dad's turning a new page, the twins are growing up surrounded by love and joy, and I feel like we've all learned a ton about facing challenges head on. Thanks again for being a part of our journey. Here's to moving forward, finding joy in the little things, and embracing whatever comes our way with a big smile. Can't wait to catch up again soon. Keep sending those good vibes and sharing your stories too. Here's to sunny days ahead for all of us.